Welcome back to From the Pages, and if wrestling history is the lifeblood running through your veins, the way it runs through mine, then hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because today we step into the winter 1986 issue of Victory Sports Wrestling, a magazine printed in that unmistakable mid-80s boldness, packed with explosive layouts, heavy inks, dramatic photography, and the gritty, hungry tone of a wrestling world exploding across territories, television, and international borders. And as always, the magazine begins with pages of advertisements that scream pure 80s energy, flooding readers with mail away offers for superstar posters, glossy 8 by 10 photos, replica championship belts, weightlifting programs, wrestling hotlines, boot camp style training manuals, muscle building supplements, T-shirts adorned with blocky neon fonts, and plugins for Victory Sports' own subscription services, each ad louder, brighter, and more shamelessly aggressive than the last, capturing that glorious era when the business was booming and every company wanted a piece of the action. And once the magazine roars past this avalanche of merchandising, we land on reader response. On page 6, a section filled with fan letters reacting to previous issues with equal parts passion, fury, devotion, and curiosity, as readers debate ranking controversies, celebrate their favorite heroes, condemn their most hated villains, and weigh in on feuds and storylines from around the wrestling world, showcasing the feverish pulse of the mid-80s fan base. And then the features erupt on page 8 with Nikita overpowers Graham. Yeah, can anyone stop this awesome Russian? A deep dive into the terrifying dominance of Nikita Koloff as he crushes superstar Billy Graham beneath his Russian nightmare persona, examining Nikita's unstoppable strength, his cold stoicism, his brutal in-ring style, and his rising threat level as one of the most frightening forces in professional wrestling. Framed against Graham's charisma, physique, legendary star power, and bold attempts to withstand Nikita's onslaught, turning the article into a snapshot of a moment when Koloff felt like an unbreakable wall standing between the American icons and their future glory. And on page 12, the focus shifts to Scott Hall takes aim at Colonel DeBeers. The big man's biggest test, yet detailing Hall's growing momentum as a muscular, powerful rising star and the psychological warfare deployed by the cunning, manipulative DeBeers, a man portrayed as a venomous strategist obsessed with breaking opponents mentally before ever stepping into the ring, pitting Hall's raw physical promise against a veteran heel armed with cunning and cruelty. And page 14 asks, why do the experts continue to underrate the Fabulous Freebirds? Diving into the rowdy charisma, southern swagger, musical flamboyance, and unpredictable brilliance of Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts as Freebird Fantasia surges across arenas, baffling critics who refuse to acknowledge their evolving chemistry, tag team innovation, and ability to control a crowd with pure rock and roll bravado. And from there, the magazine barrels into page 20 with the Andersons vow, will wreck and rule the rock and rolls, painting Ole and Arn Anderson as a cold, merciless tag team machine targeting Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson with promises of destruction, methodical dominance, and pure Anderson violence as the Rock and Roll Express brace for a war against a family famous for breaking spirits, bones, and dynasties. And then page 23 brings looking at Billy Jack Haynes, where longtime wrestling journalist Matt Brock examines the muscular, powerful, quietly intense Haynes, analyzing his in-ring strengths, his conditioning, his attitude, and his potential to climb the ranks if he can overcome the political and physical obstacles surrounding him. And then on page 26, we get Bill Watts. The cowboy is still walking tall, a tribute to the legendary promoter and former star who continues to shape the wrestling landscape across the South with forceful leadership, traditional values, rigid discipline, and the unmistakable aura of a man who built and protected his wrestling territory with pride, toughness, and a deep belief in athletic legitimacy. And on page 28 comes one of the most entertaining features of the issue. You can't fool the fans. There goes Andre the Giant Machine, a humorous but pointed reflection on the obviousness of Andre the Giant wrestling under a mask as one of the so called machines, a storyline meant to disguise his identity, but instantly recognized by fans everywhere because there is simply no hiding the presence, size, silhouette, power, and mythic aura of Andre, making the article a celebration of the fans' intelligence and the Giants' unmistakable iconography. And then page 30 reveals JM and Ronnie Garvin, blood brothers or brothers in blood. A powerful study of the intense relationship between the Garvins, exploring whether their bond is rooted in unbreakable family unity or forged through mutual violence, shared hardship, and the grueling realities of wrestling life as the duo confronts emotional and strategic crossroads in their partnership. And next on page 32, Barry Windham's new mission, humiliate Ric Flair, recounts Windham's renewed pursuit of the Nature Boy, outlining Barry's determination to dethrone Flair, destroy his ego, and seize the world title, framing Windham as a disciplined, driven, technically polished challenger battling not only Flair's skill, but his politics, influence, and psychological mastery. And then page 34 offers Hulk Hogan. Where does he rate among past WWF champions? An analytical feature comparing Hogan's drawing power, charisma, in-ring presence, mass appeal, and cultural dominance to the champions of decades past, presenting statistical, historical, and anecdotal arguments that place the Hulkster remarkably high on the all-time list even at this early stage of his storied run. And then page 36 delivers the Motorsports Wrestling Centerfold. Hulk Hogan, a massive fold-out portrait that merges Hogan's superstar appeal with cross-marketing aimed at gearheads, racing fans, and athletics enthusiasts of the mid-'80s, creating a bold, unusual centerfold that blends the worlds of motorsports and pro wrestling with an unmistakably 80s flair. And from there, the momentum shifts to page 38 with Magnum TA. He's got millions of fans, but he's the loneliest man in wrestling. A dramatic, emotional profile of Magnum TA emphasizing his movie star looks, explosive ring ability, skyrocketing popularity, and the paradox of fame that leaves him isolated and behind the scenes, exploring the loneliness that can accompany a meteoric rise, the pressure of expectations, and the emotional cost of being viewed as a symbol rather than a human being, creating one of the issue's most introspective narratives. And finally, page 42 asks, will the Fantastics be forced out of the UWF, examining whether one of the most beloved tag teams in wrestling is being targeted, squeezed, politically manipulated, or pushed into dangerous territory by those threatened by their popularity, athleticism, and fan support, analyzing the internal pressures and external challenges that could jeopardize their place in the Universal Wrestling Federation. And from there, the magazine transitions into page 45, the Victory Sports Wrestling puzzle page, a sprawling word search style challenge where fans attempt to locate hidden wrestler names across a grid, framed as a fun mental exercise amidst all the intensity. And the back of the issue erupts into the massive official wrestling ratings on page 68, an authoritative multi-territory ranking of champions, contenders, tag teams, and divisions across the wrestling world, meticulously listing who stands where in the competitive hierarchy of 1986, followed by page 70's ratings analysis breaking down why certain stars rose, why others fell, who gained momentum, which feuds influenced standings, and what shifts fans should expect in the months ahead, rounding out an issue overflowing with 80s promotional grit, territorial pride, character intensity, and the electric pulse of wrestling, just as it approached one of the biggest growth explosions in history. Wrapping this winter 1986 edition of Victory Sports, wrestling into a loud, vivid, unapologetically passionate time capsule of an industry on fire.